Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Reaction Time. I'm Jacqueline Cordova, joined by my co-host Ben Visser, and this show is presented by Fareway. Big week.
Huge week, the biggest week. We have often called this almost like Christmas. It's not quite wrestling Christmas because that's NCAAs, but it's like wrestling Thanksgiving. It's an awesome holiday. Mm-hmm. One of the things you look forward to all year. And you get to see family.
Yep.
You're in state rivals.
Everyone's in town. Yeah.
Have a grand old time.
Iowa State. They finally got their first, I say finally like it's been weeks. Iowa State got their first win of the season, 29-9 over Navy. So notched that under the belt. Nothing too crazy, you know?
Pretty much as expected.
Yep. Some good performances there where we wanted to see them. But now it's time for the Cyhawk. And of course, Iowa State is the underdog in this one, as Iowa's the number 2 program in the country. Big test. My biggest thing going into this is you have a better idea of what that starting lineup's going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Starting to, I think. Well, yeah. Yes.
You like how in availability, Dresser said something like, you don't know what your starting lineup is until March 1st.
Yeah, I just want to know what the starting lineup is when Big 12s roll around. Okay, coach, sounds good. As if last year he wasn't super satisfied the whole year. Like, oh, this is great. I don't have to decide anything. I know everyone's going to be like, that's his preference. But like, I just want to know by Big 12s. Mm-hmm. Sounds good. So,
but yeah, Iowa City Showdown. The duel will take place at 6 p.m. on Saturday in Iowa City, enemy territory.
Mm-hmm. On Big 10 Plus, which they now are offering a pay-per-view option, which I think is like $10.
Yep, $9.99.
Yep, pretty good deal to watch the dual meet. I would highly recommend doing it. I have not seen the product of a Big 10 Plus because previously it wasn't pay-per-view, and I wasn't going to pay like $20 a month to watch it.
Right.
But the announcing crew should be a great one. Jim Gibbons, former Iowa State great, should be on the call. Shane Sparks should be there. So really top-notch announcing crew. So hopefully the production value is at least somewhat decent, and it should be a pretty good product.
I am very excited that they did that, just because my thing with it is, do I want it on Big Ten, any Big Ten network? No, of course not. Of course you want it on ESPN every single year. Yeah. But which I feel like Dresser was kind of hinting at that today when he said something like, what was it, like 250,000 people watched it. Yep. So I love him for that. I know what he's doing. He sneaks in those nuggets, and he's right. That's a lot of people. That should have signaled something to the networks, but neither here nor there. I'll take any win we can get with that. So $9.99, pay for it. Watch Iowa State football at 6:30, right, Aiden? At 6:30, and then have wrestling on. I know you guys have second screens.
I was going to say, everyone has second screen. Yeah. You might even have third and fourth screens. Yeah. So
you all have these crazy setups. Just throw it on. But yeah, a lot of good wrestling. Where to begin?
I almost think, so we have 2 options. We can go match order, which would be perfectly fine, or matches we're most interested in and go from that direction. I'm happy to do either.
I think we should spend more time on what we're interested in.
Okay, let's do it.
So that producer gets a vote. I vote for that.
Yep.
Fine.
I'll start with this, though. So in availability, of course, as always, we want to know injury updates. We want to know what the status is, because we have 3 guys that listed as or for 125. Yep. So I was glad that he narrowed it down. So I tweeted this in case you need to go back to see it. But 125 is a game time decision between Tarakina and Meza. 141 is a game time decision between Redding and Jacob Frost. 157 Pinheiro, he said, is good to go. Sounds like he may have just tweaked an ankle, he said,
yeah.
But
he's been practicing. He went hard today, drilled hard today, he said. And so he's not worried about his health at all.
Sounded like Matt Rust, essentially.
Yep.
165 will be a game time decision between MJ and Connor Uten. And then Younger Bastida is ready to go.
Younger's ready. There's an like Jackie said, there's an in that lineup, but Dresser seemed pretty committed to Younger's wrestling.
Yeah. So they're weighing these guys in, and it's a game time decision, which is fine. I kind of expected it. It's one of those duels where you can't blame the coach for keeping that close to his chest, which reminds me of the last time we were in Iowa City when I'm walking into Carver and I get a text of, oh my gosh, Kyson Terrakino isn't wrestling. And I'm like, what do you mean? So at least it's not one of those scenarios, but just expect to see, not know in those weights. That's the only thing I wanted to bring up. But yeah, tell me what you're looking forward to.
So my most looked forward to match is probably at 197 between Stephen Buchanan and Christian Carroll. Stephen Buchanan has been, I think Christian Carroll was joking about it at availability today. He's like, he's been in college for like 7 years or whatever, but like, I'm pretty sure he's been in college for 7 years. He started at Wyoming, very good wrestler at Wyoming, transferred to Oklahoma, wrestled for a year at Oklahoma. I think it was supposed to be a year and a half, but transfer rules at the time. Now he's transferred to Iowa, where he is the number 1 or number 2 ranked wrestler, depending on what site you look at. Really good wrestler. Don't want to take anything away there. But we've seen the 2 matches that I've seen of Christian Carroll. It's like, this guy's a dude. And like Dresser said it again today at availability. When Christian Carroll's wrestling well, there's nobody that can beat him. And I firmly believe that. Like when Christian Carroll gets to his offense, it's explosive. It is definite. Like there's no one that's going to wriggle out of a Christian Carroll takedown or try to turn it into a scramble or anything like that. Like if he's got your leg, you're getting taken down. He's like almost younger Bastida powerful, which we heard from Ben Durbin at the beginning of the season. Like, hey, these 2 guys are by far the strongest guys on the team. And we've seen that in Christian Carroll's takedowns. Like, okay, this guy's a dude. So I think it's going to come down to, for me, Stephen Buchanan is very good on top, just as a seasoned vet. If Christian Carroll starts on bottom anytime, can he get up successfully? And can he get to his offense? Because again, Stephen Buchanan, seasoned vet, very good at wrestling, is going to have a good defense, and he's good at offense. So can Christian Carroll find his offense? Can he get out from bottom? That match just in and of itself is going to be worth the $10, I think. I think it'd be an excellent match. There's a good chance that Buchanan wins. I think that's a very real chance. In my prediction, I do have Buchanan winning, just because Christian Carroll is a freshman, unproven, hasn't wrestled a top guy yet. But there's also, from what we've seen and what Dresser said, a very real chance that Christian Carroll can beat Buchanan. And if that happens, that would be one of the things that would need to happen for Iowa State to win the dual meet. But if that happens, I think the sky's already the limit for Christian Carroll. But we got a few tweets this week about starting a Christian Carroll fan club. We can absolutely do that. Him, younger Bastida, there's plenty of room for fan clubs. So Christian Carroll, we'll start one for you. And his mindset is great. I mean, I'll let you touch on that just during availability today. It's like this, he's fun. I'll just say that.
I have not been able to sit in on a Christian Carroll interview. I don't know how we've managed that. I didn't get to a media day, and I wasn't at the duel when he spoke post, but yes, he's very confident. He came in guns blazing, but not in
combative.
Like the way he does it, I believe him. I'm sipping his Kool-Aid because you wouldn't even know he's a freshman, honestly.
No.
You really wouldn't, just the way he speaks and his confidence. So some of the things he said today, number 1, he said, they're probably overlooking me and I'm super excited to wrestle the full 7 minutes really hard. Love that. He already knows people are second guessing him, which again, in general, on paper, Iowa State is the underdog, regardless of individuals. And then he said he was pissed off. I'm trying to scroll down. Yeah. So obviously the environment at Carver is something else, and we can definitely get into that a little bit. But he said he was talking about being pissed off because he wants to prove these people wrong. And to have that confidence when going into Carver, I think is huge, especially because Carver's a scary place. It just is. I would argue it's the best wrestling atmosphere in the country.
Just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yep, it is the best wrestling atmosphere.
So for him to feel that way, I think is going to do a lot for his wrestling, just because he's already physically talented. And to have the mentality that he has, that's going to be great. And you'll have to go watch the full 3 minutes, but he also went on this mini tangent about how they're just human. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, just like everybody else does. So basically, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I also appreciate that mentality.
When he said that, I wanted to make the joke of like, well, it's a good thing you're not wrestling Anthony Robles, who is famously the guy who won a national title with 1 leg. But yeah, I was like, you're right. All of them over there in Iowa City do have 2 legs and 2 arms. So can't make the Robles joke, but
I feel like Christian Carroll's going to be someone who's going to quickly become a leader in the room.
Yep. Almost like a Swiderski. Like Swiderski is technically a junior now.
Junior.
But even last year as a sophomore, you could see he was taking on a leadership role. I think by the time Christian Carroll's a sophomore, he'll be taking on a leadership role too. He just has that demeanor and personality.
Well, and I believe it was Rob who asked him the first question where he went in and said, I'm going in as a hunter. I'm hunting, which reminds me of Dresser always saying we're going panther hunting.
Yep.
Right? But so I think, to have this confidence, to be ready to silence a crowd, that's huge. And to silence Carver, that's going to be pretty impressive if he can pull it off, which I feel like he has me convinced he can.
He can. I absolutely believe he can.
No, and Stephen Buchanan's a talented guy. I mean, when the rumor started that he was in the portal, I was like, Dresser, call him.
Yep.
Please call that man.
Now, I'm glad we didn't get him because I would rather have Christian Carroll because 100%. I'd rather have 4 years of Christian Carroll than 1 year of Buchanan, even if Buchanan does win this match and even if he does have a better nationals, which by the time national rolls around, Christian Carroll is going to be technically still a freshman, but he'll have a lot of wrestling under his belt. And I think he'll be a different wrestler in March, and he's already a very good wrestler. So
I just feel like I like Christian Carroll's chances in this. And I think that's just because I feed off of emotions, and his emotions are clearly very set on I'm going to win this match. He didn't quite say that, but it was the undertone in everything he was saying.
Yep.
So I think that's going to make for a really, really good match. I always like the upper weights. These guys are huge. If you haven't seen Stephen Buchanan, look him up. He's also big.
Yep.
So it's going to be a fun, I think, explosive. One of those where you can literally hear their bodies on the mat. You know what I'm talking when they're like going in circles?
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I agree with you. That's probably the one match I'm really excited. And I'm also really excited to see Kyle Parko, 149, Anthony Echemendia. I want to bring up what Anthony said in availability. So Anthony has always talked to us about how much he loves wrestling, how it's much more than a hobby. It means something different to him. Well, today he went on this analogy about how, like, to him, wrestling is what other people feel when they go to the club or like to the bar.
Yep.
He was like, he basically made it sound like the workouts I do in the wrestling room are my pregame before I get to go to the bar, aka Hilton Coliseum, which I thought was such an interesting
I'm
analogy.
like, when he said it, I was like, okay. But like, more I think I was like, that's actually a decent analogy, I'm guessing. I mean, I can't be inside his head, but like, given how he wrestles, that makes a lot of sense. Like, this is a guy, and he said it in availability. He's like, I grew up wrestling in Cuba in front of 0 fans. To go out there and wrestle in front of 13,000 fans, it's really a dream come true. And then he said, it's like a party. And then that's when he went on his analogy. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good analogy. But I'm super excited for that match too. Kyle Parko, very talented. He beat Pinheiro Johnson a couple years ago in a very close match. I'm excited to see what Echemendia can do against him. Echemendia and Jackie and I have talked about this several times. When we watch him, we don't get nervous. Like, we know his capabilities. I mean, even at last year at Nationals, he had an opportunity to go farther than he did, and he still was an All-American last year. So I'm of the belief, I don't think Anthony's going to lose until it happens. Like, I think Anthony's got a real good shot at winning this one, and in my predictions, I have Anthony winning. So again, Kyle Parko is very good. Technically, Kyle Parko is ranked ahead of Echemendia. Parko is ranked 4th, and Echemendia is ranked either 6th or 7th, depending on the ranking site you're using. So experts think that Parko is better as a non-expert, but a person who follows Iowa State quite closely. I like Anthony Echemendia's chances in this one just because of the way he wrestles. Maybe this is one of those where, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Do you think this one could be one of those where maybe the atmosphere could get to someone like Parco, but not Echemendia?
Maybe, because Parco spent his entire career in Arizona State, which is a very good wrestling school. I want to make that very clear. But they don't draw the fans that Iowa City does. And Echemendia has wrestled in sold out arenas like he did in Hilton last year for the Iowa Dual Meet. He has wrestled in Hilton many other times where there's, well, like the Missouri Duel last year was like 10,000 people there, 8,000 people. So he's used to big, loud, raucous environments. We'll see if Kyle Parco is. And yeah, I think I like Echemendia in this one. I think he's got it.
Mm-hmm. When I can't remember Parco, what his history is, if he's wrestled in a championship match. Has he wrestled in a championship match?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Not a Big 12. Because I was going to say, everyone always likes to immediately go back and say, oh, well, I've wrestled at nationals. I don't think it's the same, though. Because you're sharing the floor with so many other matches, unless you're in a championship match. Mm-hmm. And all those fans aren't screaming at you.
Correct.
And like, I don't know how to describe it. There's just like, I wish Aiden could come with us because it's just like the way it feels in there, especially the way Carver's built, which I've always shit on that, the way it's like funneled down to the court. But like, it just makes the environment feel like something I've never experienced, even going to nationals. So I just think that it's going to be a very exciting, and I'm excited to see how guys compete in it, because people like Echemendia never wrestled in Carver. Carroll, never, right? No. It's his first Cyhawk. Yep. I mean, it's Parco's first. It's Teamer's first. And whoever their young guys are.
It's not Gabe Arnold's.
No, definitely not. And it might just be those two.
It's Buchanan's first. It's Keeter's first.
So, yeah, I think the environment that this Cyhawk brings, especially in Carver, I think it's underestimated. So I'm just curious how it plays out for some of those guys who have never competed in it, when it's a very much like hunting and being hunted.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Kyle Parco has 3 Pac-12 championships.
Oh, yes, they were in the Pac-12.
Important to note, the Pac-12 championship does not draw like the Big 12 or especially the Big 10. Mm-hmm. That is a small tournament. Like, it's obviously still a conference championship, but it's not a ton of people there.
And maybe I'm being dramatic about it. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. And even if the environment got to them, they would never admit to it.
Never. No.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's such a special environment that I hang on it a lot. And maybe because I've never wrestled, so I don't know what that feels like. But I think it was Teamer and his availability today at Iowa. He mentioned something, how those loud environments, he can't even hear his coaches. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask Dresser about that, about how difficult can it be when you're trying to coach those guys in those like high intense, like it's down to the wire matches, and they literally can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, we saw some of that last year when unfortunately MJ Gaitan could hear his coaches, and they advised him, I think, to keep riding or something, but they had the riding time wrong. And he needed to let him up and take him down again. But it is a good question. It's a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing.
It's just crazy. It also makes me think of when they've coached David in his championship matches. Mm-hmm. There were moments where it was difficult for David to be able to hear what his coaches were communicating to him. So I don't know. Environment matters.
It does. It has to.
So, and I think this is a really big test. I think we should definitely talk about, can Iowa State win this? Is there a chance? Mm-hmm. Right? No one knows what the true Iowa State lineup looks like. Casual fans are just, it sucks because you get to know the team, and now we're in this season where it's like big question marks. So I definitely want to get into that.
Yep.
Is there a chance that Iowa State can win this?
There is a chance. A lot of things would have to go right. So like my actual dual meet prediction, and you guys can hold me accountable for this, is Iowa winning 20-13. That's what I have on paper when I do the math. That Iowa would win 6 matches in that case. Iowa State would win 4 matches. I have bonus points coming from Nelson Brands over Aiden Riggins. And I have bonus points from Michael Caliendo over either MJ Gaitan or Connor Uten. For Iowa State, I would have bonus points from Younger Bastida over Ben Keeter. But even that I'm not super confident in, just because Younger hasn't wrestled a match this year. I think if Younger had wrestled from the beginning of the season, super confident in bonus points from him. But first match out, how are his lungs doing? How's Matt Rust? What's he look like? So even that, it could be 20-12. But I have 20-13 just because I have a high belief in Younger. Best case scenario. So of those matchups, I have Iowa winning 125. That one's probably honestly a toss up, but in Carver Hawkeye, you give toss ups to Iowa is at least how I do it. Same thing at 141. I think that's one where Iowa State has a real chance at winning with Zach Redding or Evan Frost, but it's going to be really tough against Ryder Block in his home arena. So there's a path. A lot of things have to go right. Upsets have to happen. One of the upsets would have to be Christian Carroll over Stephen Buchanan. Another one, and I think we should talk about this one too, Gabe Arnold and Evan Bachman. On paper, Gabe Arnold's the favorite. Freshman phenom. We saw him last year beat Will Feldkamp. But how does Evan Bachman, the grizzled vet, fare against the young, super talented Gabe Arnold? And I loved Dresser's quote on that matchup. And it was essentially, Evan Bachman's really tough. Gabe Arnold's really talented. Can Bachman be talented enough to beat him? Or can Gabe Arnold be tough enough to out-tough Bachman? So it's like, it's the real question of talent versus toughness in wrestling, which is like a very real thing. And it's actually fun to think about. So that's going to be a fun match.
I forgot to introduce our guest.
Yes, he is currently here to door open.
Ben's dog is here.
Yeah, he sure is. First time in the studio.
Yeah.
Say hi,
What's
Coda.
his name?
Coda. Do you see the camera? Look at it.
Look, Coda.
Oh, here, pop. There you go.
Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah. So if you're watching on video, you're seeing my dog right now. He's a big old lap dog.
Yes, Evan Bachman. I think that's why I like him, because you look at him, you look at the field, and you're not like, yeah, that's top 3 guy. But I feel like he's going to shock you a little bit. He's going to surprise you, especially because clearly something at Iowa State is working for him that wasn't necessarily working at other schools. And it might be too soon to say that. It's so early in the season. This is going to be the biggest test Iowa State has before they hit the road for tournaments. But I just think that Evan Bachman embodies, like you said, the toughness versus talent. And I always like to go towards toughness.
Yep. I think especially true in a raucous environment. If you're tough, especially mentally tough, you can handle those things. And Bachman's one of those guys who's been around the block a few times. So,
yeah, that'll be a really exciting match.
And I always hang my hat on the fact that he did beat Younger Bastida once. That happened. That was a real thing. So it only happened once. They wrestled like 5 times, but it happened. So.
And then wasn't it 2 years ago, Pinheiro won in Carver? Aiden shaking his head, yes. Yeah, that was an explosive situation. And Coach talked about how Pinheiro is one of those guys who needed to get the Grandview Open under his belt. It's a full day of wrestling left and right, the weigh in, you go through the grueling process of it to be ready to go in his first live match. And I'm really glad that happened, because from what we know about Pinheiro, this is only setting him up for success. And I hope we get to see that, because again, I have a soft spot for him. It just, all the gambling stuff really sucked. And so it'll be fun to be able to have him back in the lineup and then see what he's got. Yeah, he's throwing right in the fire against number 1 Ja'Cory Teamer. And I really like Ja'Cory Teamer.
Yeah. He's a great
Maybe
wrestler, very fun. But the one thread of hope I'll give for Iowa State fans on that one is Cody Chittum beat Ja'Cory Teamer last year. Now that was very opposing styles. Ja'Cory and Pinheiro, I think, are actually very similar styles. They're both super explosive.
They're built the same.
They're built the same. Both very athletic. The fun part about Chittum last year and the Teamer match is like, Chittum is a brawler. He wants to brawl with you. He wants you in tight. He wants to ham fight you. And when he's on top, he wants to ride really hard. Pinheiro and Jacqueline aren't about that. They want to be on their feet, shooting shots, still hand fighting really well, trying to have an opening there. But those two, they want open space and see who can take each other down. So it could be a really fun match. And there's a chance that Pinheiro wins that one because we've seen while he is ranked number 1, Teamer is not unbeatable. He's not one of these Keegan O'Toole's or Aaron Brookses of the world or anyone like that. He's like, no, he's good. He's very, very, very good, but also beatable.
I think these rankings are shit. Sorry, Aiden, that's the second time, I swear. But it's just like, what do you mean Buchanan's 2?
Yeah.
And AG Ferrari still sits ahead of him. And then you have Carroll at 20.
No.
I got beef. I need to call up Earl at Intermat.
I'm looking at 157 right now, and I think Teamer is probably the best guy. The number 2 guy is Meyer Shapiro, who's good, but I think Teamer is probably better. And then Antrell Taylor from Nebraska is 3. Tyler Kasich from Penn State, very good, number 4. And then Peyton Keller, who I've never heard of, from Ohio, apparently junior. I apologize, Peyton, apparently very good, is number 5. So, like, Teamer is probably the best, but looking over those rankings, like, why is Pinheiro number 10? So,
well, that tells me that if Pinheiro is really like about to do some of his best wrestling,
he has a chance. 157 is an open weight right now.
I think the thing with this match too is I just want really good wrestling. It is what it is. If they lose, I think because of what you see on paper, it's just, you might as well anticipate it. Iowa State just doesn't match up the same, right? And it is what it is, but they're about to field the number 2 team in the country in November. That's a huge thing for a program because there's not a lot of teams will get that opportunity. And then that just makes figuring out who's the better guy in the room even harder. And then you walk into March struggling and fumbling because your guys haven't you haven't really figured it out. And I think Dresser said it I think he said it last week. He's like, you can make them wrestle against each other as many times as you want, but there's a difference in who they are when they go out and compete against other teams. Well, this is a really good measuring stick.
It is. It's a great one.
So this will be really good, not only because you're going to wrestle against the guys who are clearly being ranked in the top guys in the country in a really hostile and uncomfortable environment. So you're going to be tested in a million different ways, especially because you have to travel out east. You have to go through your weigh-in. You got to go through the whole process, right? So this is going to be really good. So it's almost great that Coach is smarter than me, obviously. It's great that he's making several of them weigh in.
Yep.
This is good. This is a really good thing. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I was just looking over it. Iowa has 5 guys in the top 5.
Exactly.
Iowa State has 2.
You might as well get it in.
Yep.
And this is one of those where I'm gonna need those guys who aren't quite favored in their matches to stay focused on those bonus points.
Yep.
Because bonus points have shown to win this duel. So do not give up bonus points.
Yep.
At all costs.
Yeah.
Please.
Looking at you, Aiden Riggins.
Do you want to talk about Aiden Riggins? Do you have any thoughts? Do you think it's maybe because he's young and it's the start of the season, or?
Yeah. So when I'd asked Dresser about Aiden Riggins after the Navy duel, because Riggins dropped another close one. And it's just one of those things. Dresser made it sound like he's young. He is a sophomore. He hasn't quite developed. He has a go-to shot. He can't always finish it. Okay. So he needs to develop a way to be able to finish that shot. Also against the Navy wrestler, he had a really tough time getting out from bottom. And against a guy like Nelson Brands, scares me a lot. Obviously, Aiden Riggins, transfer from Iowa. He was a starter for Iowa last year. He clearly has ability. And I think at some point, if he stays at 174, I think he can probably become a guy who's ranked in that top 20-ish range. But against a guy like Nelson Brands, and it's probably going to be really good for him to wrestle Nelson Brands. I think it could be tough for him. He's obviously probably very familiar with him. I'm sure they wrestled a lot in the Iowa room last year, even if Nelson was suspended for gambling, much like Pinheiro was. But yeah, Aiden Riggins, if he's unless he pulls an upset, which, hey, if he wants to, go for it. But if he's not, make sure it's a decision.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you're looking for out of Iowa State?
Really strong competitiveness, which is going to upset a lot of people. And I get it. That's fine. Wins should be the expectation. I'm with you. I think if you compete really, I'm going to sound like a coach. Oh, this is terrible. If you compete really, really well, good things will happen. But I think it's true. And especially in a sport like wrestling, where we just talked about toughness versus talent. If you're tough, good things are going to happen for you. If you compete really hard, good things are going to happen for you. So if someone's getting ridden really hard, fight to get out. Fight really hard. Don't lay down. Don't use the mat as a pillow. Fight really hard to get up. And it is so much easier said than done. I want to make that incredibly clear too. If someone was riding me, 0% chance I could get up. Yeah. I fully recognize that. That said, fight really hard. So that's mostly the big thing that I want to see. And now if that translates into wins and Iowa State somehow wins this thing, great.
Yeah. Go hate tweet at us. Go say that we didn't know better. I would agree. I think the biggest thing I want to see is a full 7 minutes, right? Go hard the full 7 minutes.
Something Christian Carroll talked about today.
If you can't, we've said it before. We've said it for years. If you can't win, keep it to a decision. So that means you are fighting tooth and nail to not allow them to get the takedown, to not allow them to get the riding time point. So I think that's the biggest thing I want to see, because it's at least you can walk out of a loss and say, okay, you know what? They gave it their all, which is why I looked at the loss reaction against Stanford when Dresser was clearly mad about it, because they didn't.
Right.
They didn't.
Yep.
And if they're going to lose against Iowa, we don't know if they are, but if they do, at least walk away knowing that you gave it your all and you made them work the full 7 minutes for their wins. So I think that's the biggest thing I want to see. I just want to see entertaining wrestling.
That too. Yep. I want to see Christian Carroll put on a show. I want to see Younger put on a show. If MJ goes at 165, try to pin Michael Caliendo. Throw him in a headlock and see what the heck happens. Evan Frost, man. Dresser said this last week against Navy too. Evan Frost beat a pretty good kid. I shouldn't say kid and Navy wrestler at the same time. He beat a pretty good Navy future U.S. soldier. And Dresser saying, yeah, Evan, good win. Still doesn't quite have the pop that we've seen from him in the past, just because he's still managing his weight. And if he manages his weight well again this week, which it sounds like he has, we're going to see the Evan Frost that we saw last year. Assuming he continues to manage his weight well, which I'm going to operate under the assumption that he does.
Right.
I want to see that pop against Drake Ayala. I think there's a real chance that Evan Frost can not only win, but potentially push that one toward bonus points.
I agree.
Because we saw it last year. Evan Frost turned whoever he wrestled, I think Brody Teske, turned Brody Teske last year and got back points. Like, Evan Frost has that capability. When he's feeling good, he is good. So I want to see these guys go out there, be explosive, be fun to watch. Like Dresser always says, be entertainers. Just throw it all out there, because if you're going to lose, try really hard.
Yeah, I agree. Aiden, do you have any thoughts?
Throw myself on screen here.
Oh, look at you. That's what Aiden looks like, everybody.
No, my only thoughts really surround Christian Carroll. I mean, this is kind of, we've talked about it before. We love him around here. And he finally gets, I mean, not finally, but he gets his first chance to kind of prove himself. And even if, he goes in there and loses a close match, again, not to be the moral victory guy, but I think you kind of have to take some here, just with where both programs are at right now, unfortunately, for Iowa State.
Well, in the words of Anthony, he said that they're going to war and they don't feel like underdogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is totally as a fan perspective. As a team, I'm sure that they're...
And honestly, I would be curious to know, like, as a collective, what does the Iowa State fan base feel?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is a little more low pressure compared to last year.
I mean, shoot.
Like, I think that might be the biggest IHawk we've covered.
For sure it is. I mean, ESPN broadcasted it, so it was.
Fair.
But Yeah, I think there's a little bit less pressure. I'm guessing there are still plenty of Iowa State fans who are like, we compete against, well, Iowa State has lost 18 in a row, at least, I think. Potentially
you said we weren't going to bring that up.
I know, but potentially up to 20 in a row.
Let's see, it's 19 right now.
19 right now. Yep. So since 2004. So apologies for that. But last year and the year before, there was a real expectation that Iowa State could, maybe even should win. Obviously did not happen. That's not the case this year. I don't think from really anyone's perspective. I mean, Dressler's even said it like, hey, we're the underdogs. So I think it's a fun place to be. Just because you do have the opportunity to hunt and pull an upset and break a terrible losing streak. So
yeah, and you know what's funny? Rob today, or whenever you're listening to us, at availability, Rob asked Dresser if he ever gets like flashbacks or like ever gets like moments of like nostalgia back to when he was competing. I was going to ask that. So when he asked, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have an original thought. Like Rob was also thinking of this because I was thinking about that. For some reason, I was like, I wonder at the end of the day how this feels for them. Like all of them. That includes the brands. Like they competed in it too. And of course, now it's a different angle for Dresser, Metcalf, and St. John now that they're Iowa State's coaches. But I was just, I'm glad he asked that. He said maybe sometimes it didn't sound like it was too much like maybe what Rob and I were kind of angling for in the question. But I bet there were moments where it felt weird to be in that coach's corner and be like, okay.
Yeah. I'm wearing Cardinal. I'm wearing my Cardinal sweater.
Yeah. I hope he wears that sweater. I love that sweater and it looks great. Like the color. Contrast. Like I mentioned earlier, Ben and I are both going to Carbo
Yes,
Hawkeye.
we will.
This is going to be fun.
It's be a great time. I love Carver Hawkeye for wrestling. Only for wrestling. Their men's basketball atmosphere is truly terrible.
I went there 2 years ago when Iowa State got shellacked.
Yeah.
Game was over. No, for basketball.
Yep.
It was like Iowa scored the first 20 points of the game. It was over instantly.
I was also
game
there.
sucked.
Yeah. I took Trent as a gift, like it was his birthday gift. So he got to have a great time while I was really miserable. So
yeah. But for wrestling, Carver Hawkeye, excellent. It is the best atmosphere in wrestling.
That's why I always find it so funny when Iowa fans and like Chris Hassel are complaining about just like how atrocious their basketball atmosphere is.
But only men's basketball. Even women's basketball for them is very good.
Men's basketball specifically, because I'm always like, don't y'all wish you had wrestling fans?
Yeah.
Because they're psycho.
They are psycho.
You know what? I want to experience that place go dead silent.
Yeah, we'll see if Younger Bastida can blow him another kiss.
Oh, Younger. We'll have to get that. I'll have to get that picture of Hayden and prop it up because he just.
I'll say it. It's worth losing a team point. Go crazy.
Unless it's a close dual meet. Like
yes,
if it's 19-18 after that, Younger Bastida wins and he blows them all kisses and loses a team point, so it's 18-18 and Iowa State loses on criteria because of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll.
I'm blaming you.
Like I'm gonna go to the top and just launch my body.
I think that's the worst possible way to lose.
It would be. For sure it would be.
I mean, it almost ended up happening a couple of years ago when Younger threw his headgear after beating Warner. Is that right?
Yeah.
Jacob Warner. Yeah. Spiked his headgear. That was awesome.
He didn't know any better then.
No, he didn't.
All in all, I think it's going to be a really good match.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be entertaining. I think the more people say Iowa State's going to lose, the more Dresser's going to feed it into them. And hopefully it helps ignite more fires. But based on what Christian Carroll said, what Anthony said, I don't think they need much lighting under.
No, I think they're ready.
Yeah. I think they know what's coming. And Brands is in no way. What did he say again? Now I forgot. He is not downplaying.
Not downplaying them.
He is not downplaying this dual meet, even though it's
just another one. We're preparing like it's any other dual meet. It's the next one. That's the biggest one on our schedule. But I'm not downplaying this. Is essentially what he said. It's like, all right.
And then he kept saying it.
Then he kept saying it in like unrelated answers. It was like, all right.
I think he was answering a question about like someone on the team and then somehow found a way to say it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would be so curious to hear what Tom Brands has to say about his win streak. Someone ask him.
Yeah.
It won't be me.
I was going to say, you're going to talk to him after the dual meet, I'm guessing. You're going to be in that press conference room.
True. I did ask him a question 2 years ago.
What's it feel like to get 20?
I asked him, and
I hate saying that. I'm so sorry, everybody.
What did I know? Someone on Twitter, an Iowa fan, was trying to talk crap on me. I don't know about what or who, but they brought up wrestling, and they were like, I don't even think they were a wrestling fan. I think it was just an Iowa fan who was like, oh, when's the last time Iowa State beat Iowa in wrestling? And it was just like 2004. Do you even know that? Like, you don't, we're past this. Self-deprecating is permanent. Thank you. But now it's all right. Yeah. Now we're just rambling.
Us?
Yeah.
Shocked.
I'm excited. This is what we signed up for, right? This is what we look forward to. It's going to be a really good match. I'm going to keep tweeting to please purchase that and watch it. Just because with these broadcasts need to see the numbers are there. People are interested. I don't care if this is the only wrestling you watch all year because it's good. I just wish people understood like the gravity of just how special it is that Iowa has programs like Iowa and Iowa State and UNI.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discredit them before Allison yells at me.
Yeah, well, you can't discredit Parker Keckeisen.
My angel. But you don't have this everywhere. And I think we talked about this last season. This is a very unique situation to be able to have this because I would be curious. The numbers exist about how many people attend Oklahoma and Oklahoma State duels. I know they get a good crowd.
It's not like this though.
But it's not the 15,000 people in Carver.
Yeah. Or the 13,000 whatever sold out in
Iowa
Ames
State,
last year.
So, I mean, all in all, I'm excited. It kind of makes me think of football, right? Like, I hope it doesn't start slow.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little crushed in my little photo box if it's like,
well, if they go traditional weight, 125 is a toss-up.
3-4 losses in a row.
Kyson Terrakeen is feeling good. Who knows? Who knows? So,
final thoughts.
I think I've thought all of my thoughts out loud. Just excited. I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's best time of the year for the dual meet season. Interested to see what guys go. Interested as the leader of the Younger Bastida fan club to see how he looks against Ben Keeter. Also interested to see what Ben Keeter looks like. I interviewed him multiple times during his high school career. If he was not a Hawkeye, I would be a really big fan of him. And I still am. Like, he is a good kid, very smart, very well spoken, excellent wrestler. I like Ben Keeter a lot. I hope Younger breaks him in half. So.
I'm curious what he's weighing these days.
Keeter, last year he's having a tough time putting on weight, they were saying. So
curious to see what he looks like in person next to Younger.
Yeah.
Who's just gotten bigger.
Yeah, he's gotten bigger.
Anthony's gotten bigger.
Yeah.
Did you notice that he's huge?
Well, he gained 8 pounds. He's up to 149 now.
His arms were bulging.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are big guys. Ben Durbin putting in the work. I don't have final thoughts. Whoa. Like you said, I think we've thought him through, which is crazy because we're at like 40 some minutes.
Oh, good for us.
This is good for us.
Yeah.
And we've just rambled, so we probably could have shut her down earlier. Well, like I said, we'll both be in Carver this weekend. Super excited. 6 p.m. Get your double screens ready. Iowa State will kick off at 6:30 in Utah. And as always, all of this coverage is possible because of Fareway. Go get your groceries. I know many of you are not traveling this weekend to the game. So go to Fareway, get your snacks, get your meat, get the game day spread ready because you have wrestling and football to watch.
Yep.
And tons of other Big 12 games to watch as well as Iowa State continues to fight for their way into that championship game. So a lot of good stuff going on this weekend.
A lot of great stuff.
I'm excited. It's going to be a fun Saturday.
It will be.
I don't know how I'm going to watch football, but
yeah, I don't think we will.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll do the rewatch.
Yep.
Anyways, as always, guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to recap the Cyhawk and start looking ahead to the month of December, which is always a fun time. So thanks for listening.